I remember going to a Bob Dylan concert once. I looked over at my friends and we were all perplexed. We were listening to the music. We could hear the melody, but the lyrics, they were just mumbling. It was the songs we wanted to hear, but we couldn't make out the words coming out of his mouth. It was an interesting and almost frustrating experience, but looking back, I can always say I saw Bob Dylan live. I could check that off the list, like seeing Willie Nelson or other legends. It wasn't the best concert, but it was unforgettable because I saw Dylan. He's a name that carries weight in his music. Even when it's hard to decipher in the moment, it sticks with you. So when I saw the trailer for A Complete Unknown, I thought, this could be great. James Mangold did a pretty good job with Walk the Line, but I was cautiously optimistic. My hope was that it wouldn't fall into the same traps as most rock biopics, the drugs and the redemption arcs, the cliches. And here's what's brilliant about A Complete Unknown. It doesn't care about any of that. It's not interested in Dylan's background or his personal life. This is a film about how folk music and Dylan himself was a force of cultural change. Folk music was about giving a voice to the voiceless, about challenging the status quo, and Dylan came along and completely redefined it. And what's incredible about Bob Dylan is how he broke into the folk music scene like a storm. But he refused to stay confined to the expectations of the movement. And when Dylan arrived in Greenwich Village in the early 1960s, he wasn't just another folk singer. He had this raw, unpolished brilliance that felt like a throwback to Woody Guthrie, but with an edge that was entirely his own. Songs like Blowin' in the Wind and The Times Are A-Changin' became anthems of social change, giving a voice to a generation that was hungry for progress. But here's the thing about Dylan. He didn't make music to satisfy anyone but himself. And then folk purists wanted him to stay within the boundaries of protest music, but Dylan had no interest in being a spokesperson for the movement. He saw himself as an artist constantly evolving, constantly pushing. And that's why in 1965, when he went electric at the Newport Folk Festival, it was more than a cultural shift. It was a declaration, and fans booed him, critics called him a sellout, but Dylan didn't care. He wasn't making music to please the crowd. He was doing it because he had to, because he was following his own creative instincts. That moment was a turning point, not just for Dylan, but for music as a whole. It was a reminder that art isn't about staying safe or predictable. It's about breaking boundaries. And that's what A Complete Unknown captures so beautifully. It's not just a film about Dylan's rise, it's about his refusal to be pigeonholed. And folk music was about collective voices and shared ideals, but Dylan challenged that by making his own music personable and introspective and layered with complexity. He didn't just write songs, he wrote poetry set to music, which is why he became the first musician to win a Nobel Prize in Literature. And the movie shows how this tension between being a voice for others and staying true to himself defined Dylan's career and ultimately reshaped the music industry. It's this constant self-reinvention that makes Dylan not just a folk icon, but one of the most influential artists of our time. And Timothy Chalamet does an incredible job playing Dylan. He nails the voice, the mannerisms, the enigmatic charisma. And honestly, it's an Oscar-worthy performance. And Edward Norton, now people talking about Edward Norton's portrayal of Pete Seeger in this, is another standout. He brings depth to the aging folk singer who recognizes Dylan's brilliance, but he also struggles with the cultural shift Dylan represents. What I love most about Complete Unknown is that it doesn't romanticize Dylan or sugarcoat his journey. It acknowledges his flaws and his contradictions. And while celebrating his artistry, whether you're a diehard fan or new to his music, this film's a perfect entry point into understanding Dylan's impact. It's not just a story about a musician, it's a story about transformation, both personal and cultural. So, if you haven't seen A Complete Unknown, I highly recommend it. And even if you don't love Dylan's music, you can't deny his influence. This movie is a time capsule of a pivotal moment in music history, and it's worth your time. And if you're new here, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'm so grateful for you to go on this movie journey with me. And always remember, be real.
Soon, 200 people in that room, and each one wants me to be somebody else. They should just let me be.
Let you be what?
Whatever it is they don't want me to be.